Hello and welcome. I have a very special guest with me today. I'll introduce you in just a second, but no, today and always, you get exclusive early access to interviews just like this if you join us on the Liz Wheeler Show community on Locals. That is lizwheelershow.com/locals. With me now is Brett Cooper, host of the new show over at the Daily Wire, the comment section. Brett, good to see you. Thanks for sitting down with me.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
And congratulations on the new show.
Thank you. We're really excited to get it started.
So I like the name of it, first of all, the comment section,
Yes.
because this is actually a throwback, because comment sections, especially on Facebook, always used to be where, maybe Twitter more than Facebook, is where I would practice my arguments against leftists.
Yeah.
So tell me what the goal of the show is.
So the goal of the show is to reach young people who are on the cusp of conservatism. At the Daily Wire, we have a lot of really incredible voices that are distinctly conservative, and they reach a specific type of people. And so I'm coming in to offer a younger voice, a newer perspective, and focusing a lot on news that ends up on social media. So we'll be responding to the people's response to news, basically, talking through what is happening in those comments sections, what is happening online, what is Biden saying that's getting picked up on Twitter and TikTok and that kind of thing, and hopefully bringing in the young people.
I knew you were going to bring in TikTok. So we're talking Gen Z here.
Exactly.
We're talking leaving the millennials behind for a minute and reaching Gen Z. So this is actually interesting because there is a huge distinction between millennials and Gen Z. Sometimes the boomers get us confused. But no, millennials are like 30 and 40 right now. And Gen Z is in college or just graduated from college.
Yeah, we're entering the workforce now, which is, it's wild.
It's scary for us millennials.
Listen, it's as somebody who is one, it is scary as well, because if you look at all the studies about Gen Z and entering the workforce, there were all of these studies done by psychologists that were basically preparing HR departments and companies for Gen Z entering, and it was like, they are sensitive, they're lazy.
Oh, snowflakes.
They are, one of the biggest things that stood out to me is that Gen Z started working later than any other generation. They're not working jobs in high school. They're not working jobs throughout college. So their first, entry into the corporate world basically will be their first job. So they don't understand what's expected of them, responsibility. It's just a whole new ballgame.
Well, what kills me about Gen Z is this idea, this expectation that Gen Z has, that the moment you graduate from college, that you are entitled to your dream job. As in you've identified your professional goals while undergoing your training and your schooling, and therefore the moment you get that diploma, you think that that's what you're gonna get, your dream job.
Next day.
That's a new mindset compared to even millennials who realize that, like, oh yeah, sometimes you have to do a little work. You work your way up. You get a little experience before you get to this pinnacle of your career. Gen Z is a little bit different on that. Talk to me about TikTok, the TikTok culture. My youngest sister, by the way, is 13 years younger than me. So she's in college. She's 19. She schools me on Gen Z culture, which I like to think I'm pretty up with it because of that. TikTok I don't fully get. Meaning I'm not a boomer. I understand how to operate TikTok. But the trends are actually very influential on TikTok.
They are. I mean, even just talking about music, if a song is picked up on TikTok, immediately it's bumped up to the top of the charts. And it has become kind of an epicenter of this cultural world, basically, which is horrifying. And I feel bad about the fact
Thanks to the Chinese communists who own it.
And it kind of crushes my soul a bit that for some of my job, I spend hours scrolling on TikTok to find the worst things that people are posting that we're going to talk about. But it's this huge array of, during COVID and during, the first however many days to slow the spread, whatever, the political world on TikTok blew up, especially for Gen Z. There was like the Republican hype house, there was like the liberal hype house, and there were all of these groups of creators were coming together to create political content, and suddenly it just birthed this whole community of political commentators who were all like ages 15 to 22, basically. And suddenly they had these huge platforms and were influential, and they had never really...
They didn't know what they were talking about.
Exactly. And so it has, in a way, it's brought a lot of awareness to some of these big issues. It's got a lot of people involved in politics and talking about it, people who were like, I don't do politics. I think that's been huge. But it also was a lot of young people that it's like, you're in high school and it's just a quick 30-second
That's also a generational difference, by the way. Millennials will say, oh, I'm not political. I don't like politics. And there actually seems to be an understanding among Gen Z that everything we do is political. I don't believe in the phrase, I'm not political or I don't do politics. Like, politics is our life. It's our livelihood. It's the way that we operate, not just as a nation, but as a family, as individuals, as communities. You can't get away from it. You can ignore it and leave it to other people, but you are still impacted by politics. You are politics.
Exactly. And something that you say also is that, and that is a well understood fact is that politics is downstream from culture.
Yes.
So it is truly ingrained in every single thing that we do. And I think the Gen Z does have a great grasp on that on both sides of the political aisle. And so that is positive, I think, about this generation, is we are passionate, we are involved.
Now let's just make them more informed. That's
Right,
what
exactly.
you're doing. So speaking of informed, so
Yes.
obviously the public school system has failed in our country. It is dreadful. It's teaching kids to be racist or to think that they're oppressed depending on the color of their skin. It is teaching them that boys can be girls and girls can be boys, shutting down parents, branding parents as domestic terrorists. It's a mess.
Yeah.
This is not just true K through 12 though. I mean, it's almost unfashionable at this point to talk about higher education and how liberal college campuses are because they have been liberal for so long.
Exactly.
Because they have been liberal and indoctrinating students for so long. You have a very interesting story. We share this actually because we're both homeschooled. We were both homeschooled all the way through, right?
Yep. I went to public school for 1 year, my 9th grade year. Terrible.
And how was that?
Oh, it was awful. It was the worst thing I had ever done. I went because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing anything, because I had, gone through my elementary school years. I loved it. I had so many different hobbies. I was playing
homeschooled.
Sports.
You've gone through elementary.
Yes. And I got to 8th grade and I was like, maybe I should try it. I kind of wanted to push myself as a challenge. Like, I wonder how well I would do in a public school system.
Every homeschooled student at some point thinks, what would my life be like?
Exactly. And I think it's all from media, like TV shows and films, where I was like, oh, like I could, wear a Letterman and go to prom. It's not like that.
No, it's
obviously not. It was terrible. I wanted to leave after the first semester. I thought that it was a waste of time. I didn't like being talked at, being told what to think, even at that age and at that grade level, was not for me. So for the rest of the time, I was homeschooled.
And then you went to UCLA.
Yes.
So really a conservative experience there.
Yeah, obviously.
So another thing, this is true for both millennials and Gen Z, but grad school, I mean, it seems like undergrad is hardly a qualification anymore to get a career, to have a professional career at least. It's almost expected that you would go to grad school. I find this to be absurd, frankly, unless you are a doctor, unless you are a lawyer. I find it to be somewhat of a waste of time, and that's to put it lightly, because it's really just a reflection on the fact that high school and undergrad don't teach you the skills that you need to know.
Exactly. And I'm not sure if many grad programs are anymore. And I think it goes back to Gen Z thinking that, they're going to get their dream job the moment that they get out of college. It's like they graduate, and then I look at a lot of my friends from UCLA who are going, okay, well, what now? Like, I didn't get the job that I thought that I would have immediately, so I guess I'll just go back to school. Rather than taking an internship, taking a second job, working their way up, it's like, well, I guess I'll just take out more loans and go back to school, just further indoctrinating themselves, of course.
And this is the problem with higher education, besides just indoctrination. It's this federal subsidizing of these loans that really is a disservice to students. It's a disservice to all of these kids right now who don't understand while they're on TikTok that when you get a first job, you're not just gonna be able to pay off all of these loans, and you're not gonna be living the high life if you have loans, if you are being financially responsible. It's really a disservice to kids. It's setting them up in a sense for financial failure, the way that we push them, I guess, or encourage them.
And the way that, I was supposed to go to law school this year. That was I graduated and I was going to go into constitutional law. I specifically wanted to do 2A advocacy. That's what I was thinking of doing. And I dropped out the day that my orientation started. And I was like, I just can't do it. But one of the reasons why is I started looking at the numbers of how many law students are being pushed into the workforce post-graduation. There's not enough jobs. There are not enough openings for attorneys, basically. Because we have all of these under-subsidized student loans, but for law school, they are limitless. You can take out as much money as you want, and so as a result, schools are just creating law programs right and left. So we have so many students, not enough jobs, and we're left with
too much
these,
supply, not enough demand.
Exactly.
And then they're incentivized. The schools are incentivized not by what's best for the student, but by what's best for their own pocket.
Exactly.
Which is problematic. So talk to me a little bit more about your show. I'm really excited for this show. I think it's awesome. I assume you're going to be on TikTok with it.
Oh, obviously. I wouldn't be a Gen Z if I wasn't.
All right, well, as a millennial, I'm going to be torn between not wanting to be on a platform that's sponsored by the Chinese communists and wanting to understand what's going on in the world.
Well,
so what's your advice for me on this?
It'll be on YouTube as well. So we're going to have our own Instagram page. We have our own YouTube channel. It'll be on Daily Wire, but also we'll have a comment section platform where you can watch. It'll be it'll be segmented based on different topics, different news hits that are going on. But thankfully, you won't have to be on TikTok to watch it.
All right, and what do you think are maybe not even right now, but in the next 2-3 years, what do you think the most important issues are to Gen Z?
I think probably number one right now is environmentalism. Yep. And I think that just because the left has such a huge hold on that, but on both sides of the political aisle, we're all wanting to be sustainable. It's a huge talking point. And honestly, on the left, I'm seeing that so many young people are glorifying the environment rather than a religion, basically. PragerU actually did a fantastic documentary called The Religion of Green, where they talked about that. And so young people are putting that and equity above everything else. And so I think that it's a huge fight for Gen Z leftists, that we have to figure out a way to communicate I don't know, how to figure out our messaging so that we can reach them in a way that shows that the free market, the conservatism, we can also address their concerns while not compromising our values.
Well, I think what you're doing at the beginning is the correct thing, meaning you're listening to what they care about. Because one of the mistakes the conservative movement has always made is trying to tell young people, regardless of which generation it is, trying to tell young people what they should care about, rather than saying, what do you care about? And then let us tell you how a limited government policy best fulfills your desires or your ideological agenda. So I'm looking forward to this. Brett, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you. It was happy to be here.
And as always, if you want exclusive early access to interviews just like this one, you can join the Liz Wheeler Show community on Locals at lizwheelershow.com/locals. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button below, and ring the bell to make sure you never miss a video.